Oh, look out now over the tarmac at Hartsfield-Jackson, where the skies may not be so friendly in the near future. Yesterday, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the government shutdown is forcing the nation's flight capacity to be cut by 10% at 40 major airports starting tomorrow morning. And NBC News has confirmed this will include Atlanta. All right, let's bring in NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And Alice, you have the full list there. Do you know why these specific airports have been picked?
Good morning, Chesley. So the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, said that this was a decision that was entirely driven by data, and it's about trying to make sure that they have the coverage that they need, largely in terms of air traffic controllers, but we're also talking about TSA agents, both of whom have been working without pay since the start of the government shutdown. And Sean Duffy said that while the Transportation Department, while the FAA is very concerned about flight delays, about people being able to, get where they're planning to go on time, he said the basically first, last, and only serious and grave concern that they have is that the airspace be as safe as possible. And so the decisions for these 40 airports, and not at all surprising that Atlanta's would be among them, being the busiest that we've got, the decision was based on, what needs to be done at each of these airports in order to make sure that all flights can take off and land safely, that they're manned in such a way from the ground that can happen.
Yeah. Secretary Duffy warned that the air traffic controllers could miss their second full paycheck next week if the shutdown continues. Is this a bit of an ultimatum from the Secretary to end it?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much that he can do. He's certainly raised the alarm and warned of, in fact, mass chaos if the shutdown extends into another week. He said that we may have to start seeing partially closed airspace if the shutdown continues to drag on. So yeah, I mean, he is really laying it on the line and trying to really show the stakes here. And we're trying to hammer that point home as well, because I'm sitting here in Washington. We're very aware of the stakes of the shutdown here, but this is something that impacts people all over the country, and airports are a really clear illustration of that, really clear reason. There are all kinds of reasons that people fly, people all over the country. And so if you go to the airport and you encounter this kind of gridlock, it really drives it home. We are in a government shutdown. It matters. And I think Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, is leaning into that and certainly doing what he can to raise pressure on folks on Capitol Hill to try to get air travelers, the air traveler system, all out of this mess.
Alice, do we know if there's any other plans in case this drags on? We know that Thanksgiving travel is just around the corner, and that could be a big mess.
Yeah, so I mean, that is why the Transportation Secretary decided to act now with this 10% reduction in flights. He said this is actually a proactive measure before things get to where they would potentially be unsafe, I think, from the way that he was phrasing it, and to relieve stress, to relieve pressure on the system and on the workers who are working without pay once again. And we know this, air traffic controllers were already under an incredible strain before this started. A serious shortage of those very important positions already was in place, and now we're seeing this. And he was very clear about it. He said because of the economic pressures that air traffic controllers are facing and TSA agents, that many of them are calling in sick and they're taking on second jobs in order to put food on the table. So the only other real option, if we're not going to see the government reopen, there has been some talk about potentially a standalone bill just to pay air traffic controllers. Does that stand a better chance than reopening the government? Not sure, but if things start to get worse, that could be a possible alternative.
All right, Alice, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate the information.